A wonderful morning to everyone who has joined today. From ManageEngine family, we would like to extend our warm welcome and sincere thanks to our customers, partners, and users who are interested in our solution. Endpoint management and security is one of the
Muted.
focus area of ManageEngine. Let me introduce myself. My name is Cyril Raja, and I'm a product specialist from ManageEngine. I take care of the endpoint management products, including Desktop Center. I am a seasoned technical support engineer, assisting customers in their implementation, consultation, and troubleshooting in case of any challenges. In today's webinar, we will focus on endpoint management solution, which has different product portfolios under management and security. During today's session, we will be discussing Desktop Central Suite, which has management and security capabilities. Once again, welcome to Desktop Central Training. Let's look at the training schedule. We are on the last week of Season 3, which is onboarding, configuration, and hidden tricks. This is one of the model of our endpoint management and security suite. We have covered a couple of models over the past week, and we are currently running on the last week. In case if you have missed any of our training schedules, you can always view them on the link that is shown at the bottom of the screen. In case if you have interested on the upcoming training series, please use the same link to register yourself. And now we offer participation certificate to all the attendees in the section. Please note that your participation certificate includes Series 1, 2, and 3. Please visit the below URL for more information. In case if you have any clarification on it, we have a dedicated chat panel with us. You can get in touch with them anytime. Let's look at today's training, which is onboarding, setup, and how we can configure Desktop Central to season for a digital workspace. So let me give an overview of an agenda. You can see what is Desktop Central, and then we will have a look at the architecture behind how Desktop Central works. Then how Desktop Central equips digital workspace in which machines segregated over the globe. So here we have to make sure the data availability and collaboration of an employee needs on a device anytime, anywhere throughout the customer like online. And we also look on how effectively we can manage and work from home machines. Also, since we are adapting the new normal, now most of your employees might be returning to office again. So probably they will step in daily or weekly once or bi-weekly. In this case, we can see how we can deploy all this configuration which used to address the security threats in the edge. With regards to configuration and hidden tricks, which is today's session, it's about we will look at some scenarios, include how we can configure a baseline collections or configuration, or how we roll out a USB restriction in all the machines, which is on my domain. We also discuss some frequently asked questions with respect to this configuration model. In fact, even during today's training, if you have any questions, please feel free to chat using the chat window. I have an expert panel with me who are ready to answer all your questions. Let's see, what is Desktop Central? Desktop Central is an endpoint management solution that ensures all your endpoints are secure and enables the user to use them effectively for business. A popular research analyst called Foster defines UEM as follows. So Desktop Central is an UEM solution. So UEM is nothing but product that provides a centralized policy engine for managing and securing employee laptops and mobile devices from a single console. So in unified endpoint management, you can manage endpoint in a traditional IT management fashion that includes patch management, application management, configuration deployment, OS deployment, tools for troubleshooting, and day-to-day management activities. Similarly, endpoints can also be managed with modern management. Windows 10 is a modern operating system in which we can support the features like geo-tracking, geo-fencing, managing store applications, profile distributions to enforce restrictions, operating system reset and recovery. That's also can be managed from this UEM solution. So these are the features which we can have it in Desktop Central, starting from management to security. We can provision a new device by installing an agent on it so that I can push a new application, as well as I can push some configuration, and I can see the live inventory. And in case of any issues, I can very well take a remote control of it. And also we have an option to get to know what are the vulnerabilities on that endpoint, and you can mitigate the same with the help of Desktop Central, and you can very well deploy a patch without a human intervention. And we also have a device level DLP, which helps you to understand what is exactly copied on the external thumb drives. And we do have a bunch of restrictions. And also you can get to know what are the device compliance overview. We have a data protection officer dashboard that will help you to understand what are the machine which is under the compliance, which is not in the compliance. So all these features, everything will be bundled up, and you can have it on our UEM solution, that is Desktop Central on the whole. With Desktop Central, Unified Endpoint Management, you will be able to manage desktops, laptops, mobile phones, tablets, servers, point of sale devices, and browsers, all this from a single console. So that is the beauty of this product. Desktop Central is recognized for Best Unified Endpoint Management Tool of 2021 as reviewed by customers in Gartner Peer Insights Customers' Choice Award. We are recognized for Unified Endpoint Management in Magic Quadrants for the second consecutive year. We are recognized for both traditional and modern management. So let's look at how Desktop Central works. Desktop Central is a client-server model application and also an on-premises solution. We do have a cloud model too. You can have, in case if it's an on-premises model, you can have hosted in any one of the supported operating system. This is the architecture of Desktop Central, how we can deploy in terms of a wide area network or a local area network. So in terms of a wide area network architecture, so this is the one which is on the screen. You can manage different remote offices from one console that can connect either over the internet or using a VPN or an MPLS connection. For the machine that are present in remote sites, which are connected over a direct internet connection, you can use a component called Secure Gateway. A Secure Gateway is the server that bridges the agent traffic to the central server and to the machines which is on a different network that is on internet. When it comes to remote offices, we have a component called distribution server, which is used to throttle bandwidth for the data traffic between the central server and to the remote location. We will talk about this in detail as we go into the training. We can choose to have the machines communicate either directly to the Desktop Central or with the help of a distribution server. You will be able to manage all your mobile devices using a Secure Gateway tool. And with the help of Desktop Central, you can manage multiple domains as well as workflows. And also you can get it integrate your Active Directory. That will helpful for you to deploy the configuration based on your organizational units or as well as AD groups. So this is a typical wide area network architecture. Next, we will talk about the closed network architecture. So what is closed network? A network which does not have a connectivity to internet or limited connectivity is called as closed network. Even if you have a closed network architecture, you can still use Desktop Central to manage your endpoints. And moreover, Desktop Central is also available in the marketplace on Azure as well as AWS. You can very well spin up the cloud instance along with the Desktop Central application on it so that you can very well host it on those at AWS or Azure, and then you can install an agent to the end user's machine and you can get it managed those machines in a single console here. And now Desktop Central is also available as a service. You can very well sign up Desktop Central to any of our data centers. So you can get it signed up instead of hosting a solution in your on-premises or a virtual machine or a data center or any of the cloud instance, you can very well sign up for a service. So Desktop Central runs on our own cloud data center here. So we are not dependent on any of the data centers, means cloud providers. So below is the link. You can very well get in, means step into this link and then sign up for the product. So next thing, we will talk about what are the components that you need to run this application. So here the components is based on an on-premises solution here. There are essential as well as optional components. So the Desktop Central server component that you will install it will provide the interface to the management console. The agent is also an essential component. You need these to be installed on a machine that you want to manage. And then there is another component called notification server. This is an interesting component. We will talk more detail about this once we go into the feature. We will look at the optional components. We have a distribution server, which serves as a repository for patches, softwares, scripts that you have deployed to the machine in the remote office. We can create unique replication policies for each location as per the bandwidth requirement, so that the binaries will get transferred to that particular allocated time frame. So it will not disturb your daily business activities or your production hours here. And then we have a secure gateway component. This is also an optional component. In case if you want to manage the machines which is on a different network, let us assume if the users are working from home and you want to manage them, you can have this component. This will helpful for you to manage the roaming users. And we also have a failover server. In case if you want to have a high availability, you can make use of it. This is separately licensed. Moreover, you can also use the language tag to list the web console in your preferred language. So these are the essential as well as optional components. You can include these components as per your business needs. So these are the 3 OS we support. We support Windows, Macintosh, as well as Linux machines. So these are the supported list. We support both Windows client OS as well as server OS, and also the machines which is running in an Apple device, starting from Lion to Big Sur. And also we do support the different kernels, starting from Ubuntu to Debian, Red Hat, as well as Parados. And we also included the support for Oracle Linux recently. So if you want more details about the list of supported OS, you can very well drop an email to desktopcentral-support@manageengine.com for further information. So next, we will see how we can onboard a computer to Desktop Central. So as I told earlier, it works on a client-server model. I need to install an agent to the end user's machine. So you can install an agent in case if the machine is on the same network, you can install it over a GPU, or else you can integrate your Active Directory to the Desktop Central console and you can push the agents. And we do have an option to manually install it with the help of script. You can put up an IP range, so this will start installing the agent to the end user's IP addresses, which you are giving. In case if the user is working from home, if you're having a cloud model, you can distribute the link to the end user. So from the link, they can download the agent and you can install an agent on their own. Okay. And next we talk about what is the 90 minutes refresh policy and how effectively plays in Desktop Central in terms of management and scalability. So Desktop Central can scale small as well as large network with help of this 90 minutes refresh policy. Even if you have 90 machines or 900 or even 9,000 machines, the 90 minutes will be divided between them and each machine will be given a specific time to talk to the server. Every agent communicates with Desktop Central server once in 90 minutes. The server has the intelligence to assign a time for each client to talk to the server. This is to avoid network congestion or bandwidth related issues. So the 90 minutes refresh policy is designed in such a way that the load of the server will be split evenly, and it's an automated process that will happen. It will automatically taken care of by the Desktop Central web server. And these are the ports which used by Desktop Central. Desktop Central runs primarily on two ports, which is A3, that is HTTPS port, and also 8027, that will be run under the TCP stack. In case if you want to use a HTTP port, you can also use the 8020. So the 8383 and 8027 are the mandatory ports, which helps for you to transfer or replicate the binaries to the machine which is on the other end, or in case for communication to the machine with another end. These two ports plays a major role on it. So the rest of the ports, that is 8443, it's an optional port. In case if you want to do a voice or a video chat with the end users, you can very well enable this port. And in case if you want to take a remote control, you can very well enable this 8443, which is on HTTPS layer. So you can very well enable this 8443 for remote control. So in case if you want to transfer a file during the remote control session, you can very well open the port 8031 for it. And in case if a machine is under to a distribution server, that needs to be open. The machine which is under to a distribution server has to be open this particular 8384 port to collect the binaries from the distribution server on this location. So all these ports are inbound to the Desktop Central server. So there are no outbound ports here. So let us see how we can provision Desktop Central to a new infrastructure. So let us consider myself as a John, and I'm having the responsibility for managing around 1,000 endpoints, which is segregated over the globe. So this is my typical high-level design document. So for example, I have my head office in Dallas, that is around having 3,000 endpoints. And I have my branch location in London, Chennai, as well as Bogota. And I have the users which is on Sydney. They are all roaming users. That means they will connect to VPN, or else they will connect it over the public internet. So whenever there is a need, they will step in and they will access my corporate resource and they will do their business activities. And the locations, we have a limited MPLS link. For London, I just have an own MBBS. For in Chennai, I have an unlimited bandwidth on it. And Bogota office, I just have 512 kbps. So I have to define or deploy Desktop Central in such a way which will not harm my business activities. In the same time, I have to deploy the patches and configuration, and I have to troubleshoot in case of having issues. So let me look how we can deploy the product. So this is my typical architecture before the pandemic. So let's say this assume. So now what will happen is all the users are mobilized. So that means the users are around 90% of my workforce are working from home. So I will split it up in these three categories. So they falls under a regular VPN users. So let us assume, so the users who is on Sydney, they are my regular VPN users. So I know these users will connect it over the public internet, and they will step into the VPN. I already have a necessary configuration for them. And now, because of the pandemic, I have to provision in new users with the VPN connections or a laptop for the new users who is working from home. So those users need to connect it to my VPN for doing the business. Next, we also have few employees. They don't need to access the VPN because all the apps there which they are using it is everything is a cloud based. So they just need an internet connection to access those applications and they can perform their daily business activity. So and now I have to manage all these three users with the help of Desktop Central. That's the challenge here. So I have to manage the VPN users and the users who is newly provisioned for this work from home scenario, and another users who is working from home without a VPN here. So let's see how we can do this. So these are the list of challenges what we can that will arise in case if I am mobilizing my workforce to the open internet. So I will have to enforce more restrictions in terms of authentication, and some users might bring their own computers. I have to manage those computers too, because if something is wrong, my corporate data will be sitting on that particular computer. That will be more vulnerable here. And in case, and over the span of time, so the users also coming back to Office. So I have to give the intelligence to Desktop Central to fetch those users, and I need to distribute the patches directly either by distribution server or in the central server. So I have to feed this intelligence to the Desktop Central. So let's see how we can do it. So Desktop Central, so you can download the product from manageengine.com/product Desktop Central. So you can download the free trial from here. So as I told earlier, we have two offerings, the cloud-based as well as the on-premises one. So now I'm going to explain you how I can set up an on-premises model. You can download an on-premises model from the website. And so this particular EXE bundle will have the web server along with the database. So the database comes with along with this EXE is a PostgreSQL. So that will scale up to 7,000 endpoints. In case if you want to manage more than 7,000 endpoints, we recommend to have a separate instance for database, that is MS SQL Enterprise Edition for it. Desktop Central is the single console. You can manage up to 30,000 endpoints. So I have downloaded the product, and in this case, I'm going to manage around 10,000 endpoints. So I'm going to spin up a VM, which is having this particular hardware resource for it. So this is the system requirements for managing around 10,000 endpoints. I can download, I can spin up a VM with this necessary configuration, and I will be installing the product in any one of the supported operating systems. So we recommend to install it on a server OS, it's on a Windows platform, in case if you're managing more than 5,000 endpoints. So I will download the product, I'll spin up a VM, I'll install a Windows Server OS on it, and I will just install the product on it. It's hardly take 20 minutes to install the product. So it's just a kind of a plug and play. Just within 20 minutes of time, it will configure the web server and it will give you the web console like this. So this is the web console of Desktop Central. So this is how the web console looks like. So here are the features which I listed out, starting from configuration, patching, and vulnerability management. Everything will be on a separate module here. So in case if you want to purchase a specific offering, that is management offering, we have a separate licensing for it. In case if you want to have as well as a security offering like vulnerability management or device control or application control or BitLocker management, you can have a license for it. So here the beauty is you have a single console which will help you to manage your endpoints, as well as you can restrict in terms of security parameters here. And the agents which is on my computer is responsible for performing all these features here. So a single agent is responsible for performing all these tasks. So let us see how we can onboard the computers to Desktop Central Console. So once you reach the console, you have an agent tab here. So in the agent tab, you will be having an option to push an agent from the console. So that is one way. We also have an option to push an agent with the help of a GPO, as I already told. We will give you a VBS as well as a PowerShell script for you. And also we will help you to perform an onboarding service. If you need an onboarding service, we will help you to onboard 50% of machine to the endpoints, and we will train to how to onboard the rest of the computers here. So that is one way to do it. So I'll show you. Just a minute. Let me access a different server. Sorry for the delay. Okay. So this is how the console looks like. So once I install an agent, I'm able to see what type of agents on it. So in order to push an agent from the console, we have an option to integrate the domain here. You can add your domain. So I can give you a domain name, either it's a NetBIOS name. The username and password should be an administrator, because during the push installation, the agent will access the admin dollar share of, the desktop center will access the admin dollar share of all the computer and copy the agent binaries and initiate installations with the help of WMI. So that's the need of an admin dollar share here. So once the domain get integrated, you can add a computer from here itself. So it will list out all the domains which you are having and all the computer objects which you are having on your infrastructure. And you can select it and you can get it, install an agent from here. So this is one way you can onboard a computer. And another way, you can also have an option to install an agent with the help of a GPU, as I told. And also we will give you a script for installing an agent with the help of an IP address. So these are the different ways you can install an agent on it. In case if the user is working from home, you can share the binaries to them and you can install an agent on their own. In case if they are a standard user, you can very well reach us to the support. We will help you to integrate or push the credential in the binaries so that you can share it with the end users, even though the standard user can install an agent. So it's like a plug and play installation. So there is no need for any other additional configuration need to be performed on the agent installation. So once the agents install, you will be able to see the computers in this UI with this color code. So there are 3 color codes here. If there is green in color, the machines are turned on. So that means I can perform all the on-demand actions, starting from taking a remote control or chat with the end users or accessing the command prompt in the backend. So everything can be done if a machine is in green in color. That means the machine is turned on. If it is in red in color, that means the machines are turned off or else it's in a different network. In this case, I have in case if it's on a same network or at least a computer which is turned on with the agent install on it, I can wake up the computer with the help of Desktop Center and I can troubleshoot it on it. In case if it's grayed out, we will help. That means the machine is not at all having a Desktop Center agent on it. So from the color code itself, you can understand the status of the machine, which is on the other end. This is one way. And we will also give you a nice summary tab that will list out the flavors of machines which you are having. That is, how many of them are Windows, how many of them are Mac, and how many of them are Linux on it. And moreover, we are able to identify in case if a machine is not reported for an n number of days. For example, if a machine is not reported for more than 30 days, if you want to get an alert, you can very well get an alert on it. Likewise, instead of getting an alert, you want to remove the agent from the console. So because the licensing is based on endpoints. So in case if a machine is not reported for an n number of days, I can very well remove the computer from the Desktop Center management console, and that will free up a license for you. Likewise, I can also ask Desktop Center to sync a specific OU or a specific domain, so that in case if a new computer object adds into it, we can automate the agent installation. So once the agents install, it will automatically notify to the system administrator. So these are the easy ways you can install an agent. And moreover, we also have an option to install an agent by retrying it automatically from the server. So let us assume I am pushing an agent to the end user's machine. I want to automate the agent installation for the next 2 or 3 days. Means Desktop Center will do it on a defined frequency, that is within 3 hours interval. It will start pushing the agent one by one, and it will automatically onboard the computers to the Desktop Center console. So these are the few automations we have in terms of onboarding the agent to the console. Okay? So this one way, and in our case, so we will install the agent to the local office, that is our Dallas office, and we have few users on London. They started coming back to office. So in this case, I can create a remote office like this. So in the remote office, I can I can map the endpoints which is on different locations or your local office. I can create a location-wise distribution points here. Then you create a remote office name. So there are two ways you can communicate. You can ask Desktop Central to communicate, either with the help of a distribution server or with a direct communication. So in our case, in my London location, I have 2000 endpoints and it's connected over an 1 Mbps link. So I have to use a distribution server here because I will not entertain, in case of the users are coming back to office, I will not entertain all the 2000 machines to download the patch directly over my MPLS link. So in this case, I can have any one of the machine which is on that specific location, that the patches or software which is on the head office will replicate to this distribution server, and then it will redistribute through intranet. You just need to give the IP address of that particular distribution server, which is on London location. And moreover, you can create a policy to tell at what time I want to replicate the patches. So for example, that is a 1 Mbps link. So I'm not going to replicate the patches on 24/7 here. So I can also define at what data transfer rate I can use it. So even though it's 1 Mbps, I just want to use 512 kbps to replicate the patches. So a Desktop Central server use just 512 Mbps of course, and it will also replicate the patches in this defined window. So I don't want to replicate in my business hours. So it's going to replicate it after 6 p.m. to early morning 7 o'clock. So within this interval only, it will replicate the patches and to within this particular data transfer rate. Likewise, I can create a policies for all locations for Bogota as well as Chennai office. So likewise, I'll be creating three remote offices, and I can install an agent from that. So the advantage of creating a remote office is, so in case if I want to target the deployment, I want to deploy the patches or a software for an Austin location on a specific time, I can define it. Likewise, I can target each and every location on a defined change window. So we have another layer of segregation on top of your AD, because once you install an agent, Desktop Central has an option to perform the or deploy a configuration without an AD dependency. So the agent will take care of all the deployment without any AD integrations here. For installing an agent itself, we are getting the support from the Active Directory to push it. That's all. So likewise, you can distribute it. And moreover, we also have an option called an IP scope. So that will helpful for me to, in case if an employee switches from one location to other location, we automatically understood based on the IP scopes. It's nothing but DHCP scopes. You have it on each and every location. We automatically understood the IP scopes. So the machines will move automatically and it will map it to the nearest distribution server. Likewise, we also have an intelligence to understand in case if the user is within this particular IP scope or they are in the public internet. So for the users who is on public internet, before installing an agent, I have to make sure I install an additional component called a secure gateway server here. So as I told earlier, the secure gateway server it will just like a front-facing server for a machine which is on a public internet. Let me show you a simple architecture of secure gateway here. So this is how the secure gateway need to be deployed. Your Desktop Central will be on your data center. Your secure gateway will be on your DMZ zone. So it will be I need another computer for it. Either it's a Windows 10 or a server machine. We will be installing a secure gateway component here. So the advantage here is if I'm not having the secure gateway, I need to open the ports directly, advertising my Desktop Central to the public internet. If you have a secure gateway, your DMZ machine will be the front-facing machine, and that will be published to the outer world. So even though a hacker or if someone try to access the Desktop Central without a proper authentication, they will not move apart from this. They will stuck into this particular computer. They will not even have any data on the headers. So this component is specially designed for Desktop Central. So it uses the same certificate which Desktop Central server as well as the agent using. So the machine which is on the public internet, get it authenticate to the secure gateway server, and then it will route it back to the Desktop Central server. So now I'm going to configure this secure gateway server. So I have a small video for it. So let me quickly run through that. So the secure gateway is purely for the machines which is on public internet. So in this scenario, it will really helpful for us because all our workforce are doing their job in their home only. So the machines in a different network here, our desktop central, which will be on your corporate data center or which will be on your private cloud here. So here, this is a private IP of desktop central. Now I'm going to give a public IP, same public IP under the NAT setting. So you can go to the security settings. You have a secure gateway server here. So you can download the component from here itself. So you can download the component. So you are going to open the same ports which used for the agent server communication that need to be opened from the secure gateway to the desktop central server on. So you can, it is just a plug and play installation. So it will ask you to feed the machine name or an IP address of desktop central server. So in the next step, you will be having an option to feed those data here. So just give the server name and the port number and the password. So what is this password is nothing but what is the login credential of desktop central you want. So I can give the login credential. So it will validate it. Then it will give a list of ports which you have already used. So it will show the ports. If you want to enable or disable these ports, you can do it from the console. So in the next option, you'll be having an option to install the certificate. So it will copy the certificate from the desktop central server to the secure gateway server machine. So that will helpful to perform an authentication for the agent which is on the other end. So that's all about it. So I have the secure gateway server configured. So in the UI itself, we will show you the status of the secure gateway under the admin. Again, just go to the secure gateway server here. So it will show you the status. So it starts syncing the certificates. Once the sync is done, so you can see it is in the green check mark. So that's how you configure it. Now you will again feed the public IP of the secure gateway in this particular NAT setting. So now the agent has the intelligence to communicate with the help of this public IP as well as this public FQDN. So put it in another way, desktop central agent knows to communicate in 4 methods with the help of a private IP or a machine name or a public IP or a public FQDN. If any one of the way, if I'm able to authenticate the master server, I'm able to distribute the patches or deploy software, I can take a remote control. So the first thing before configuring a remote user is first configure a secure gateway, then create a remote office for them. So under the admin scope of office, I am creating a remote office for the users who is working from home. So here I will be not having any distribution server here. The machine is on a different network. So it is going to directly communicate to the desktop central server. And I can create a policy. So I'm not sure at what time they will communicate to my desktop central server. So I can give a 24/7 window here. So here, the challenges which we have faced or addressing the customer's need on the work from home scenario is, so let us assume I have 5,000 machines, the users are working from home. In case if they want to download 100 MB of a patch, so they will connect it either over a VPN or over the public internet. They will directly hit to the desktop central server, which is installed on my infrastructure. So in order to avoid it, we have introduced a new feature like you can push the, like in case if you want to deploy a patch or a software, or you can just push the configuration along to the agent. In case if you want to download the content, instead of coming to the desktop central server, the machine will directly go to the respective vendor sites to download the patches, and then it will deploy. So you have the control to tell at what time you want to deploy a patch at what time it want to reboot it, at what time you want to download it. So whatever the patch you approve, that will get downloaded directly from the vendor website instead of coming to my desktop central server, which is hosted on my on-premises. That will arrest your bandwidth constraint. And in case if the users are coming back to office, we automatically understood this is not connected to the VPN or over the public internet. It is on my intranet or over my MPLS. We directly route it through the respective distribution server by configuring the IP scopes here. So likewise, so now I created a roaming office here. So I'm adding it. So I can add it from here. So likewise, I can see the IP scopes here. So I can configure it. So here you can see the list of remote offices I'm having. In case if the machines are not part of this particular IP scopes, I can ask them directly move them to the remote office called work from home. So we automatically understood the moment we detect the computers. So instead of serving the patches with the help of a distribution server, I can ask them to directly go to the vendor website and download the patches. Likewise, we can automate the machine movement as well as the bandwidth constraints in the infrastructure. So that's how you can deploy your desktop central to a new infrastructure. So first thing, you will install the desktop central server. Next, configure the secure gateway and push the agents. It's about setting up it. And the next part, so here we have in case if you are already having a desktop central, now you want to configure the settings for the work from home, and your user is already working from home. In this case, you can also configure a secure gateway in front of desktop central, and you can run the server details, update server.detail script, so that in the script, I can feed the new IP address or the new FQDN of the secure gateway server. So I can, once you run it, so the agent which is on the different network knows the public IP or a public FQDN of the secure gateway, then it will contact again back to desktop central and it will get the patches and software. So even though it is newly configured or it is already you're having a desktop central server in your infrastructure, you can very well manage it without any major breakthroughs here. So if you need any help, you can get into our chat panel. So he will give you an article to explain step-by-step instruction or a video how to perform this script. So next part. So here in this case, the users are coming back to office. So here is the actual configuration place here. So one of the model, as you see in the console, is configuration. So configuration is nothing but it will helpful for me to push the policies. In a simple terms, it will eliminate the need of a GPU. So the agent itself will helpful for you to deploy all this configuration without an AD dependency, even though you're having a work group or an AD machine, because now in this scenario, the users are working from home. So I will be not having an active contact to my Active Directory. So in case if you're installing a startup configuration, I will not have a authentication with my Active Directory until I step into my VPN. So in order to avoid this, if you install an agent to the machine which is on the other end, the agent will take care of deploying all these policies without any delay. So if you want to deploy a script, you can do it. If you want to manage a local user on that particular, you can do it. You can deploy a legal notice. You can modify the registry values from here. You can import the registry values also from here. So this is the prime role of a configuration. You can harden your endpoints with the help of this configuration, even though they are in a different network. So now let me talk about how we can configure the USB blocks for the machines which is on the other end, or in case of the user bring their own devices, they are coming back to office with that same device. They the need is just to copy the content to their personal device to their corporate device. So in this case, there are lot of mishandling will happen. So in order to avoid this, I can do a restrictions or block that endpoint to copy the content on in an external hard drive or a pen drive with the help of configuration. So for that, we have a separate configuration here, which is USB block. So I already have a predefined one for it. So I can create a new configuration. I can tell what type of devices I want to block. I want to block a disk drive, or I want to block a Bluetooth device or an Apple device or a printer. I can do it. In case if I want to exclude it, I can very well exclude it from here, either based a device instance ID, or in case if you are having a vendor-based instance ID, you can very well perform it from here. And also, you can ask Desktop Central to allow only encrypted devices to connect to the end user's machine. You can very well do it. So it depends upon our choice. Desktop Central will create a configuration for it. So I have defined the configuration. Now we'll talk about targeting. So for targeting, I only want to allow managers to use the USB devices, and also the managers only use the encrypted devices alone. So in this case, I already created a configuration so that will only allow the encrypted devices. Now I want to target it to the end user's computer. So here, so the targeting part, I can target, as I told, either with the help of a remote office, I can target it, or either I can target it. These are our top level targets. Now this configuration is by all the machine which is on my domain, which is having a Desktop Central agent on. So now I want to exclude the managers for getting this configuration. So in this case, in Desktop Central, we have an option called custom groups also. If you're not having a ready-made AD group for your managers, you can very well create a custom group within Desktop Central. So that will helpful for me to create a list of, you can create a user base as well as computer based custom groups. We have both static as well as dynamic groups. You can create a custom group and you can target it and you can deploy this configuration. So you can also ask Desktop Central to retry it in case of a failure. I'll explain you in detail in our Q&A section. So there are two options here. You have deploy and deploy immediately. If you click deploy, this configuration will get rolled out on the end user's machine on the next refresh cycle, that is the next 90 minutes when it's talked to the agent back to the Desktop Central server, it will get this configuration. If you click deploy immediately, means it will not wait for the refresh cycle. At the time, the port 8027 is responsible for invoking the machine which is on the other end, and it will push the configuration on demand. So once you click deploy or deploy immediately, it will create a configuration for me and it will fetch a target and it will shows you the status of the execution. Either it succeeded or failed from this UI itself. So that is one way you can deploy in USB block. And next task, I want to manage the local users. So for example, I want to add a local user or delete a local user. I can very well do it. So we have a separate configuration for it. So I can add a local user, or I can change a local user, or I can remove a user, or I can modify it from the user. In case if I want to map the users to a specific user profile, I can very well map it and you can deploy it. So this will helpful in case if you are having a work group based environment, or else if because of this pandemic your AD authentication is not helpful. So if you want to use, you are enforcing the user to use a local user authentication, you can use this option here. So the next part, baselining configuration as a collection. So it's nothing but, so I showed you how you can deploy a USB configuration as well as how you want to add or remove a user. Now, if you want to add all this configuration in a single job, at the time, I need a collection for it. So collection is nothing but I have an option to add n number of configuration in a single job and I can deploy to the end user's machine. So this will helpful for a lot of automation. So I can ask Desktop Central to, whenever a new computer has the Desktop Central agent on it, just deploy all this security configuration, or just deploy all this necessary wallpaper configuration. I can do it on a go without creating multiple configuration here. So here, so I already have a collection which for us. So here I am asking Desktop Central to deploy a firewall configuration as well as to run a script on the end user's machine and create a customized security policies. And I want to add few local users in a single job, and I can target it to a specific remote offices or a specific remote offices. I can target it. So whenever the computer which is having a Desktop Central agent and map it to this remote office, all this 4 configuration deploy automatically. Likewise, I can also define, I want to, in case of a failure, what should I do? I want to retry it either within the startup or refresh. I can define it and I can deploy. So this is one way of deploying a configuration in a bulk. And we do have a templates here in Desktop Central. So templates are like which helpful in case if you're having our own the service desk plus, you can very well advertise these templates to the end users, means our ticketing tool itself. So for example, you are creating a template for mapping a printer. So you can select it and you can publish it to Service Desk Plus. So that means we can integrate our ticketing tool. So you can directly step into our ticketing tool. So in case if a ticket comes up, the technician can step into the ticketing tool itself. We have a tight integration between Desktop Central as well as Service Desk Plus. The iframe of Desktop Central will be on our ticketing tool. So without going back to Desktop Central, he can push this configuration in the ticketing tool itself. So you can also take a remote control. You can push a patch or a software with help of this integration. So your ticketing tool will be the front facing for it. So your Desktop Central agent acts in the background. If you want to push a configuration or take a remote control from the ticket itself, you can take it and you can log the notes and you can close it. So this is how the templates works here. And next part, so we have few solutions and scenarios which I came across during my support activities. I have around a few scenarios here. We will see one by one. So the scenario 1. So we completely rely on Desktop Central for system management. We cannot afford downtime. What should we do? So endpoint solution typically is an important engine which is running on an infrastructure. So I will not entertain a downtime here. So in this case, as I told earlier, we have a failover option. So you can configure a primary as a secondary server. So in case if your specific network link down or a DC down, you can have another machine on a DR that is having a Desktop Central server on it. So the client, which is on the other end, they will talk to the DR location and get the patches without any delay. And next part, if an agent is not accessed, can that computer be configured to manage and free and license? Yes, it can very well do it. So as I told earlier, we have an SOM policy. So in the scope of management policy, I can ask Desktop Central to monitor the agent check-in. In case if an agent fails to check in for an n number of days, I can ask Desktop Central to delete it and it will free up the license for you. And it will also notify to the system administrator. Next part, some of our computers go unmanaged quite often. Is there a way to fix it? So in order to do it, so for example, if I'm installing an agent and you are noticing the computer is disappearing from the console, either the end users might be uninstalling it. So you can restrict them from uninstalling from here, and you can also restrict them to stop it from here. So these are all global settings. So even though they are an admin user, they are not able to uninstall the agent, also stop the service here. And next part, it is painful to redeploy all the configuration each time we hire an employee or add a computer to your network. Is there a way of? Yes, you can forcefully deploy the configuration automatically. So likewise, in case if you are having a new computer object or a new computer, giving a new computer for an employee, you can add it to a specific OU and you can ask Desktop Central to sync that OU for day-wise. So if a new computer object finds out in this OU, it will automatically install an agent. Once the agent's installed, I can also ask Desktop Central to deploy a configuration automatically in case if I'm targeting any configuration to a specific OU or an AD group. So in this workflow, I have an automation to install an agent, as well as the configurations will get it deployed automatically without redeploying or modifying a configuration here. And next part, I want to Desktop Central use the available system resources effectively for improved performance. What should I do? So here you have an option to fine-tune the allocated memory for this particular computer, which I'm installing once I install the Desktop Central. So I have a DB optimization here. So I can ask Desktop Central to use how much resource on that particular computer. So it depends upon that. The UI will get act faster, as well as my configuration will get created. My content will get uploaded in a less seconds. So likewise, I can very well fine-tune the performance by increasing the RAM utilization here. The next part, these business data breaches and cyber attacks of PSM, can Desktop Central be helpful? Yes. So here we have an option to deploy the scripts in Desktop Central. So for example, if you see any unwanted DLL which is copied, or if you see any time of unwanted, if you subtype any one of a file which is copied on your endpoint, you can write a script and you can ask Desktop Central to clean up. So you can write a script and you can add it in the repository. So these are the script types which we support. You can deploy a script to your Windows, Mac, or a Linux machine. You can upload a script here, and once you can upload it, you can also deploy it from the Desktop Central configuration. You can execute a remote command. Also, you can call Desktop Central to run the script. Also, you can place your arguments in case if there is a dependency file. You can upload it. In case if an end user is not having a sufficient privilege to run the script, you can give your credential. So Desktop Central take this credential and run this script for you. You can ask Desktop Central to run the script on every startup or every 90 minutes or a specific up to a specific window. You can very well configure it and you can target it, which time you want to deploy it, which machine you want to deploy it, and you can deploy it from here. So that's how you can minimize the data breaches. And next scenario, I need to keep track of asset data even when I'm away from the desk. Is this possible? Yes, we do have a mobile app. So you can get an app in an Apple Store or a Play Store. So you can download an app. So with the help of this app, you can monitor your patching activity and you can get to know the inventory summary. Or in case if you want to take a remote control, you can very well take a remote control from the app itself. And next one, I want to restrict a technician to only access asset data. How can I do it? So Desktop Central is purely based on role-based administration. So you can have a single administrator. So rest of your employees, you can create a specific role. So we have few predefined roles also. Either it's a asset for managing the assets or deploying a patch, you can do it. Or else you can create your own customized role. You can create a customized role and you can map it to the end users. So I have created the role for it, and I can add a user from under the user administrator. I can have an AD-based authentication, and in case if you want to enforce other security before login, you can have a two-factor or a SAML. You can very well get it integrated during login of the product, and you can have the employee from a different domain also have the access here. Here is the place you can define the role. So asset admin will only have the inventory view. Rest of the view will be get hideout for it. And you can also map him. You can ask them to manage a specific group of computers, or else you can ask them to manage a specific remote offices. So you have a location-wise administrators. You can also give that particular location to the specific guy. So a London office to a specific technician, and Sydney office to a specific technicians. He will be responsible for administrating all the tasks, including patching, troubleshooting, inventory, everything. He will take care of it. You can have an administrator. He will oversee all the activities. from the desktop central console. And another one, I want to ensure my user recognize and trust the application. How do I achieve it? So here we do have a rebranding option here. So instead of managing desktop central, you can have your own company logo. So even though the agent installed on the end user's computer, so this is the typical desktop central agent looks like. You can rebrand it with your company logo. And moreover, if you rebrand it, whatever reports you are exporting, it will be having your own company logo here. Okay. And next part. So few questions. So 5 to 6 questions here. Then we wind up the session. So next. This desktop central allows you to block USB devices for particular IP ranges. Yes, we have an option to block as well as deploy a configuration to your specific ranges. So for example, so this is the USB configuration. Instead of deploying to a specific domain or all a specific location, I can ask the desktop central to target it on a specific IP address or an IP range. So this configuration will get deployed on that particular range itself. Can website security certificate be deployed to workstation on the multiple browsers? Yes, we can very well do it. We have a separate configuration which is called certificates here. You can have a certificate configuration distribution here. You can deploy the certificates to your trusted stores, either to your users or a computer with the help of desktop center. And some keyboards and monitors have embedded USB ports. Will these ports also be blocked despite having the keyboard and mouse option exclude from the block? So here, desktop center will do the blocking based on port based. So we will get the device instance IDs from the device manager and we will block it. So even though it is inbuilt from the monitor or a keyboard, we are able to understand and we can block those particular external connectors. So next part, can the 90 minutes refresh policy be changed? No. So as of now, we are not having an option to change it because the 90 minutes refresh policy is an important role to scale the product as well as to deploy the configuration in an efficient manner. So this will not, as of now, we are not having an option to modify it. And next, how GDPR compliant is Desktop Central? So Desktop Central have an option to mask or unmask the PII values, that is personal identification information values of that end users. So here you have an option called export settings. So in the export settings, you have an option to tell Desktop Central either I want to mask the personal information or I want to unmask it. So it depends upon that your reports will export it in a PDF or a CSV or an XLS file. And next question, if you configure a set of restriction site in the collection wizard, but don't select a web browser, does the restriction apply to their default web browsers or all the web browsers? So if you're not selecting any particular web browsers, by default, the deployed configuration will apply on the default web browsers. And how secure is my Desktop Central? So we have a security score in Desktop Central under the admin security settings here. So your security will be enforced based upon like what type of authentications you are using, either it's a SAML or a two-factor, and what type of passwords you are using. You can also have, by default, you have a self-signed certificate. You can have your own third-party certificate which you can upload on it. We will help you to generate the CSR, and we can also ask them to restrict the user to uninstall it. So once I increase it, the security score will increase or decrease automatically. And moreover, the communication for the agent, I only want to perform it over HTTPS, or the accessing the console over the HTTPS. So these standards will increase my security scores. You can see it live on the UI. We also have a best practices guidelines for it. If you want to know in detail, you can get in touch with the chat panel for the same. And next part, is there a way to optimize the power consumption level in my network computers? Yes, we can very well do it. So in the configuration, we have a configuration to deploy the power schemas. So we have an option to deploy. You can create your own power schema, or else you can delete the existing power schema under the power management. You can deploy to a user or a computer. So you can create or modify or delete a schema, and you can deploy to the desktop center. Deploy with the help of desktop center to the end user's machine. And what happens to the configuration if any of the target computers are down? So if the computers is turned off, the configuration will not get deployed. However, you can ask Desktop Central to deploy this configuration during the system startup. So it will retry it. So in case of a failure, it will retry it, or else it will do another retry on a next retry cycle. So you can increase its retry cycle as per your needs. And next question, my user has deleted the created desktop shortcut. Should I redeploy the configuration? There's no need for it because we have an option in the execution setting. So if I ask Desktop Central to deploy this configuration on every startup meet, in case if the configuration is removed or deleted, Desktop Central checks it. If it is not present, it will redeploy the configuration on the system startup. So even though by mistake the end user deleted it, there's no need for you have to redeploy this configuration again. And last question, if a workstation is not in a domain, can we manage workstation in workgroups? Yes, you can manage multiple domains as well as workgroups. So this product will not depend on any directory services. So the agent will have a prime role for it. As long as if you find a way to communicate to the master server either with the help of a public or a private IP, you can perform all these tasks. You can take a remote control, you can push a patch, you can push a configuration, everything from here. And that's all for today's session. And thank you so much for your patience in listening to me. You can rate this presentation out of 5, and 5 is the best. And you can also subscribe to our public social handlers. So these are the handlers on our Twitter, Facebook, as well as on Instagram. So you can follow us on the quick updates. And in case if you need a personalized demo or a consultation from a technical expert from a ManageEngine, you can ask my chat team to schedule it, or else you can go to this particular URL to schedule it. So we can have a one-on-one call with your solution architect, and we will understand what is the best practice. Depends upon that, we will help you to deploy, onboard the product effectively, and we will showcase all the features. And thank you all. You all have a great day. Stay safe. Bye-bye.